Why Superman can't be so super after all. Now, you might have seen the one or the other Superman comic or book or also movie, but in all of these stories we have Superman. On the one side, Superman should be the ideal. Superman is the man that is super, that is superior above everybody else, that can do everything, that can fly around the world, that can make time go back. But this is a problem. And the question is, why is this a problem? Why can't we just have stories where Superman just saves people, and then he saves more people, and then he saves the world, and then he saves more people? Because the problem, I think, is that we need to see change. So if you think about yourself, then some people might start out with basically a high level of something. This could now be maybe a very basic example of you can lift 100 kilograms. Now, if you are born and you can already lift 100 kilograms, and Superman also might do something similar to this, or he might be able to lift a car, for example, then the question becomes, what then happens? If he already is able to lift a car, then he can help people with lifting cars, for example, if somebody's stuck under a car. But then over time, if we want to see him, what is actually the new thing? We want to see something new. And here, I think, is where the rate of change comes into place, or comes into play. Now, the rate of change, if you think about him being able to lift one car in the beginning, and maybe after 1 month of training, he actually is then able to lift 2 cars, and then 3 cars, and then 4 cars, but he cannot lift the 5th car in the beginning. Similar to how Spider-Man in one of the recent Marvel movies is basically trapped under this broken building, and he is not able to lift it out. He just cannot do it. But then he goes back and he is somehow able to get out under there. But if he would have been able to just basically blow all the concrete that is above him just like this away, then it wouldn't be a story. There needs to be struggle, basically, in order for you to then see that the person has to overcome something. One might also say this has a very simple structure. The structure is as follows. There's a problem, and then you see the person going up against this problem. And the problem could be lifting a car, the problem could be trapped under concrete, or the problem could be maybe having to go back in time. But if the person already possesses the skill, then there is no change that is required. With no change that is required, there's basically no story, because we already have the thing that is required, which is the skill. So therefore, if this is the problem and you already have the skill, you can kind of just shake hands and everybody is happy. But now, if there is a problem, and the problem cannot be met by the skill, so the handshake does not occur because this problem is kind of closed up by this here being not a skill, or maybe it's just the other way around, that we have this here, but it doesn't fit basically into the problem, then we need to change. The thing that is here, the person usually needs to acquire an additional skill. And so as we then continue to see this person, ideally there is a rate of change that is happening. One could also say, for example, that you have the perfect soccer player. And as you have the perfect soccer player, then everybody has a certain level around him. Now, the people grow up and everybody becomes a little bit better at soccer, but the perfect soccer player just doesn't become better. So therefore, it's a boring story, because there is no change required. The perfect player already is the perfect player. So as the others then are rising, basically they have a rate of change. The rate of change in terms of mathematics is just the first derivative of something. So if you think about a level, me being able to lift a car, or Superman being able to lift a car, of course I'm not Superman, then over time, if you are able to lift more cars, then we have basically a rate of change. That is basically the plot that goes from the first. So if this is a graph, then we have the first here is 1 car, then we have maybe 2 cars, so it's a linear growth in this case, because 2 cars, let's just assume it's 1 month apart. So if we have this change, then there is a rate of change, and the rate of change is basically the incline of this line here, the line that goes up in this graph. And so we, I think, need to experience this rate of change, because plateau is just boring, and this is why Superman cannot be so super, he needs to have weaknesses. He needs to have weaknesses in order to be able to overcome these weaknesses with additional skills he requires. This could be that he learns something new about his emotional capacity. This could be that he learns how to overcome kryptonite. But he needs to be encountered with a problem he cannot solve, because otherwise you, at the end of the movie or the end of the book, can't have a fulfilling moment where he then finally, after all of this invested time and work, is able to solve the problem.